Hi, my name is Mike with Acro Media. Today I want to go over how to create a product catalog using the Search API with this, like connecting to a Solr core. And then on top of that, I want to be able to create a new site search so that we can find our products using our Search API data sources, as well as sort our products. So we'll be able to sort them from A to Z and ascending and descending. And then finally, we'll configure a facet that uses a taxonomy to create categories to also filter our catalog results. So the benefit of doing this method is that you end up having just one catalog page that is your like a search result. So it just shows all your products. But then we can add different elements which then filter that search result in different ways, which could be pretty powerful because you can take any type of any field that you've added to your products, whether it's a price, a color, a taxonomy term, anything, and we can turn that into a way of filtering the results to get whatever result we desire. Okay, so to start, I already have a Solr core set up for this. I've installed Commerce. I've created some sample products. I created a taxonomy called categories. And in there, I've created some basic categories with a bit of a hierarchy. So in my product type, if I edit this default here and I go to the fields, I've added the category, the taxonomy as an entity reference, so that I can then categorize my products using a taxonomy that way, which we'll then tie into later with a facet. I've installed, if I go to extend here, you can see if I scroll down here, let's see here. There we go. So under search, I've installed the facets module, search API module, and the Solr search module. Okay, so now getting started. We don't have any type of catalog yet. All I've done is install those modules, do some basic commerce setup, and then add some example products that I can use just for testing. So the first thing we want to do is set up our search API. So if I go to search and metadata and then search API, nothing's here yet. So the first thing we want to do is add our Solr core as our server. So server name, I'll just say products. My backend is going to be Solr. You could use the database, but in this case, I'm going to use Solr. We want just for our Solr connector, I'm just going to use a standard authorization. All of the defaults are pretty much good to go in this case. The only thing I'm going to do is enter in my Solr core that I created, which I named Search API for this demonstration. Everything else here we can leave default. Under advanced, I'm going to say retrieve result data from Solr. And there we go, and save. So our search API server has been added. We can see here that the Solr server could be reached, so we're good to go. So next we'll go back to the search API main menu here. We can see our server is ready. So now I'm going to add an index for this server. So I'll call the index products as well. And now data source. This is our first really important piece. So the data source is the source where the data that we're going to be using comes from. So in our case, because we're dealing with commerce, it's going to be our products. It could be, if you're creating some sort of search for a blog or for a video. It could be your content types, could be, you know, whatever you need it to be. In this case, though, we're just going to be using products. So scrolling down here, all of these settings I can just leave as is. Configuring the default tracker, can leave that as is. Under server, though, is where we want to choose products, because this is the server that we just added, so we want to keep that. Index options, we can just leave them as is, and then we can save. There's also the option to save and add fields. We'll be adding fields a little bit later on, but for now, just a step through this demonstration, I'm just going to hit save now. Okay, so that added our index. Here we can see that in our index status that we have 0 of 11 items indexed. The 11 items are those sample products that I had already added. So what we need to do is index those. So all we need to do is come down here and set index now. So that builds the initial index of the products. Any new products that we add will automatically be indexed once they're saved. So this is just something you have to do just initially. You also do it anytime you add a new field, which I'll show you a little bit later here. Okay, so now we have our products indexed. So they're indexed into our search API, just into our settings. So our index has some things in it and we can actually use it now. So what we'll do now is use a view in order to return all of the results from that index. So if I go to structure and down to views and add a new view, I can create my view. So this is actually going to be our product catalog. So I'll just call it products. Under the view settings, the content that we want to use is actually our index. So this is the new index that we just added. Unsorted's fine. I do want to create a page, and these settings are fine. The display I'll show as a grid. You can use whatever, but just for this demonstration, a grid will be nice and easy for us to see. Of fields, and so in this case, I'm also going to be using rendered entity as the field. And then I'll change the items to display to 20 just so that we can see everything that I've created so far, or all the products that I added so far. So if I save that. Okay, so now we have our basic product catalog created. The only thing I'm going to change is that under settings for the rendered entity, I had created a teaser view mode for my products because I wanted to have my default settings and then I wanted to show a different display for the catalog. And so I created a new teaser view mode for that. So I will apply that. Just to touch on that a bit, the benefit for adding, like I could add fields here instead of the rendered entity, but I like doing it this way with the using a view mode within the products, because then you can customize per product type what fields are being displayed in your catalog. If you have a whole bunch of different product types, you might want to display different fields per product type, and so by just rendering the teaser view, we can achieve that instead of being limited by the fields that we have the ability to choose here. Okay, so now, if I save this view, and I go to the new page that I created, so /products. Here we go. So we've got all of our results. So these are all of the products that I've added so far. So this right now is our entire catalog. So that's pretty cool. That's a pretty quick and easy way to first get an initial catalog going. But now we want to give our users the ability to do different things. We want to be able to let them search for a product, and we want to be able to let them filter, sort products. And then we also want to add our facet for allowing them to choose products based on categories. So let's start with the search field. So if I go back to my index, here, let's open it up here in this window. So if I go back to my search and metadata, search API, and edit my index, and then now I'm going to go into my fields. So our fields allow us to choose which fields we want to use, like specific fields from the product that we want to use for certain things. If I add a field, you can see here that we've got a whole bunch of different options. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to choose published, and then I'm also going to choose title. And then so I can go done. And so now we have our two fields here. So published I'm going to use in the view just because I want to show results that are published. I don't want to show things that are unpublished. I just want to show things that are published. So we need to add that field and type Boolean, it's true or false, so we can leave that as is. Next, I want to add the title as a searchable element for like a site search. So I added the title, and in order to make it searchable via a text input search, we need to change the type of the data to full text search, or just full text. If you want a description of the different types that are available, you can open this up, and it has all the types plus description there. One thing I like to do is when I know I'm using a field for a certain purpose, I like to say, so this is going to be for search, so I can do title for search. And then as I'm adding more fields, this just helps me be clear as to what this particular title is being used for. Let's spell that right. When you're adding full text fields or field types, you have the option to add a boost. So if you have multiple fields that you're using for your search terms, you can give priority to certain fields by upping their boost, or you can lessen the search priority by decreasing the boost. So if you have something like a title, and then you're also searching by something like a product's SKU, you probably want to give a higher priority to the SKU because it's a very specific bit of information for a product. Whereas a title, many products could share, certain words within a title. So if somebody starts entering a SKU, then that SKU can have a higher priority in the results, for the search. But anyway, for this case, we're just going to use title. I can leave the boost as is, but the important thing here is we want to make sure it's full text. So I'll save changes, and then I have to go back to my view tab for this index. And you can see that the items need to be re-indexed because we've added a field. So I'll index that now. Rebuilds it. Okay, now if I go back to my my view, and I'm just going to refresh the page here. Okay, so now what we want to do is add some filter criteria. So first I'm going to add published and save that. And we want to say is equal to true because we want to show only the items that are published. Okay, that's been added. Next, we want to add our title for search. So this is the field that we just added from our product data source. Oh, no, sorry, my mistake. So I want to add actually the full text search because we want to search for all of the fields that are set as type full text. That's what we want. So if I check that and add and configure your filter criteria, So the important thing we want to do here, or one of the important things, is we want to expose this filter to visitors. This will actually expose the field, the search field, to our visitors and allow them to use it. So we can do filter type by to expose a single filter. That's fine. Let's see here what we want to do. Our label is like what it's called. So we'll just call it search. We call it product search, whatever. Operator, we want to contain any of these words because we want to be able to search for potentially multiple keywords, but have all of the results come back that have any of those keywords. Let's see here. We want to be able to, so our search identifier, I can change this to, so what this will do is, the description here shows us that basically what it'll do is we'll have our website /products, which is our catalog, and then when you do a search, it'll be, after /products, it'll be question mark, whatever the identifier here is, so we can customize this, and then it'll have equals and then whatever term is searched for. So I'll just change this to filter. You could change this if you want, it doesn't really matter. All right, so our parse mode, multiple words is fine. Search fields, it's showing us all of the full text fields that we have added to our index. In this case, we only have one. So if you had multiple, you could leave this as is and it'll search all of them, but you could also then select specific fields if you wanted to. Anyway, this is good as we have it, so I can apply. So now we have our filter criteria set up. The next thing we want to do is, if we go under advanced, we have exposed form. So we want exposed form in block. So I want to change that to yes. So what this will do is create a block that we can then place into a region on our site that includes this search field that we've exposed to our visitors. And then that's kind of the basic settings that we need. So I'll just hit save. And then what I'll do next, this alone doesn't do anything because we still need to add that block. So I'll go to structure and then block layout. And if I scroll down here to my sidebar and I hit place block, if I scroll down, I can find this exposed form product page 1 under views. So this is an exposed form, and this is telling us that we're in our products view, and then page 1 is the display name of the, or is the machine name of the display within that view. So products page 1. So let's place that. We can display the title, sure, that's fine. We can pretty much just leave these as is and save this block. All right, so now we've got our block there. Let's move it up to the top here, and I'll save that. So now if I go back to my product front end, my catalog, and I refresh the page, I should see a search. Okay, here it is. So now our customers can search. So if they're looking for, say they're looking for a shirt, or let's say shoes, actually, because I got multiple shoes, and hit apply. There we go. Now we've got filtered results based on this full text search term that we just entered. If you put in something specific like headphones, I've got one set of headphones in my store right now, so that comes back. So that's pretty cool. And so now up at the top here, we can also see what I was talking about with that term that I added. So we've got that products question mark, and then that term filter, and then equals, and then the search term. So we can start to customize a little bit how the URL looks as well, which is kind of nice. All right, let's bring back the full catalog. All right, so now moving on, the next thing we want to do is add some sort of sorting functionality so that we can sort our products by, we'll just do it by A to Z, like for the title. But really you could do it for price, you could do it for anything. So if I go back to my index and go to the fields, I want to add another field, and I want to add a title again. And done. Okay, so now we've added title a second time. And in this case, we want to call it title for sorting, just so that it's clear what that's for. And then under the type, we can leave it as string because we're searching for terms, words, so we want to keep that as string. So this is the difference between these two, is full text exposes this to be able to be searchable via that search field, whereas string is actually data now that we're going to be searching on in a different means for sorting. All right, so I can save this. And again, I have to re-index because I've added a new field. There we go. So now if I go back to my view, my catalog view, so now we're going to be adding sorting criteria. So I can go add, and then I can find my title for sorting, the product data source that I added. And if I add that, again, we want to expose the sort to visitors to allow them to change it. And we can say title and sort ascending, that's fine. Okay. Okay, so yeah, now we have our sorting criteria figured out. I'll quickly jump into the advanced tab here and go back to our form, exposed form styles, and go into the settings. So in here, we have some settings as to how some of the labeling that we can change for our filtering. So the apply would be used, again, like we had it on our search. If we wanted to change apply to search, we could change the language right here. Now that we've added some sorting criteria, we'll have some other options as to what we can change as far as like the language here. It's fine to just leave it as is, it's good, but just so you know, this is where you can change some of that stuff. All right, so apply. I'll save this. And then go back to my products, and let's go back to my main product page here. And so now we can see here that we have sorting criteria. Just so you know, there is a bug that I've found and I've seen on many occasions where when you add sorting criteria after adding the search and you refresh the page, these options don't appear, and it's confusing as to why. I don't know why, and that's why I think it's a bug, because the way that you fix it is to go back into your block layout and remove the exposed form that we added and then just re-add it back in. And then once it's added back in and you refresh the page, then suddenly you'll see the sorting criteria. So not sure what's going on there, but I think it's a bug, and that's how you can get around it. So anyway, so let's try out the sorting criteria. So by default, it sets to title ascending. And so if I apply that, we should see our results. I guess they don't change because the titles are already ascending just by default. Whereas if we change this to descending, it should be, Z to A instead of A to Z. So here, let's hit apply. And there we go. So our product order reverses so that we've got the Vans here first and then the Dream Tank Top last, just alphabetical. Again, we can change this to ascending and apply. And there we go. So now we have some sorting options. So the same way that we added this by adding using a field and then adding that field into our view in the sorting area, and then exposing that sorting to the visitor, we can add all kinds of sorting options, whether it's sorting by price, like high to low. I'm not sure exactly. You could add added, date added. latest to newest, that kind of thing. But that's a reason, or those are different reasons where you could use these sorting options. Okay, so next, the last piece to our catalog is we want to actually have a catalog menu here that shows all of our categories and allows us to kind of filter the results based on those categories. So to do that, we go back to our index and back to our fields, and we're going to add a field for the taxonomy. So add field, and here we have the category field, which is the name I gave to the taxonomy vocabulary. So I can hit add and done. And so now we have category. Again, name it based on the purpose that I want to use it for, just for organization. Category for facet. And over here, we don't want integer because that doesn't make sense for a word. So I'll change that to string. And then I'll save changes. And once again, we have to re-index our results. So there we go, re-indexed. And now our view's set up. So now what we actually want to go into is configure, search and metadata, and facets. So this is a module that we installed that gives us the ability to add the facets. So when we created our view and we used our index, that added this facet source. So anytime you do that, you're going to get a new facet source. If we added more indexes and more views, then we'd have more facet sources that we can use. But in this case, we just have the one. And we can see that it's a view. The view is a page. We're using the products. That's the machine name of the view. And then the machine name, again, of the display within that view. So you can kind of follow along here and see exactly where that data source or that facet source is coming from. So here we go. Let's add a facet. So we select our facet source, which is our only view. Now we can choose our field, which in this case we want to use category for facet. And then we can name our facet, which I'll just name category, and hit save. There we go. So now we just need to configure this facet. When I'm dealing with taxonomy terms, I like to choose list of checkboxes. You can choose whatever you like, but that's just one that I like. Another interesting setting that's kind of that's useful is show the amount of results. And then let's see here. So now for our facet settings, there's a whole bunch here that you don't actually need to use. Actually, most of them you don't need to use. You can read through these descriptions and see what they all do, but I'll just use kind of the basics that I like to use. So transform entity ID into label. So this will actually take the ID of the taxonomy term and then use the term name instead. Hide facet source when source is not rendered. I like that because then if you're viewing a page that's not the catalog, then you won't see the facet because the source isn't being rendered. URL alias, this is used within the URL path once you start doing searches. I can just leave that as is. Empty facet behavior, do not display facet. If there's no products added to the taxonomy term, then it won't show that term because we've got this setting on. Operator or versus and. I like easily leaving it as or because then we can choose multiple results or filter by multiple category results. Let's see here. What else do we have? I believe we want to use hierarchy because we want to show we'll show our first level of taxonomy terms, but then once we click into one, then it'll then expand and show the next level for that term. I'll leave that as is, but you could optionally always expand hierarchy, which means that you'll see all levels of the taxonomy term hierarchy. These minimum account and weight we can leave. Facet sorting, you can do however you like. I'm going to turn all of these off and sort by taxonomy term weight, which just allows me to sort the terms based on the order that they're sorted in within the taxonomy itself in the vocabulary. All right, so I can save that. And our facet is good to go. And so what this will do once we add a facet is that actually just creates the facet within a block or a block facet. So if I go back to my block layout, and again, I'll put it in my sidebar, so I'll place block. If I scroll down here, there we go. We've got a new category called facets, and there's the facet that I just created category. So I can place that block, and I can just leave the defaults here and save it. Here it is here. I'll move it up underneath the search and save the blocks. And now when I go back to my products, I'll just go back to my initial catalog here and reload the page. And here we go. Now we have some categories. Obviously it needs some styling, but the basic functionality is here, and that's what we're looking for at this point. So we can see the results. So this is the number of products that have been added to these particular categories. If I want to filter by men's here, I can just check that box. So now it's showing me just the products that have been assigned to that this term plus any of its children term or subterms. So here we've got shirts and shoes. So I'm looking for specifically for men's shoes, then I can filter down to that shoes result, and now I'm just seeing those. So if I'm also interested in other stuff at the same time and I want to see all of those results, then I can add that to my results that get filtered. And so now I'm looking at both of the products that are in the other category as well as the two shoes that are within the men's shoes section. So this is a great way of creating your categories for your products because it's very dynamic. It allows your customers to just drill down exactly to the categories they want. And we could optionally add more taxonomy terms and more facets here for things like color, brand, whatever, and just really let people drill down to the exact product that they want, which, theoretically should result in them hopefully, an increased chance that they're going to buy, the products because they can find them easily. And that's the whole point of using Search API for your product catalogs. All right, so that completes our demo. Hope you learned a lot. This video is going to be accompanied by a blog a blog post that'll outline all of these steps as well, written down, so it might be easier for you to follow. In any case, I hope you enjoyed it, and good luck with your product catalogs. Thanks.